What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to your video. Today, I'll be talking about 10 racetracks that used to host NASCAR dates that should return to the NASCAR schedule. All 10 of these racetracks, like I said, have previously hosted NASCAR dates, and today I'll talk about why these tracks should return to the NASCAR schedule. So anyways, let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. The first track that, in my opinion, should return to the NASCAR schedule is Chicagoland Speedway. Chicagoland, in my opinion, was a very, very solid racetrack back in the day. It hosted racing from 2001 to 2019. And near the end of its tenure, the racetrack was providing some really awesome and fantastic racing overall. And with how good the next-gen car has produced racing on intermediate tracks especially, I believe that the racing would be amazing and absolutely outstanding. Now, there has been talk and conversations that this track could return in the not-so-distant future, and I believe it should come back on the NASCAR schedule, because I think Chicagoland, if it was returned to the schedule, I think it could be a yearly candidate as for the best race. This track provided some really good racing back in 2018 and 2019 especially, and even in the early 2000s, you saw some amazing multi-groove racing and just phenomenal racing in general. And also, it's in the Chicago market. NASCAR does want to stay in that Chicago market, and while Joliet is about an hour away from the racetrack, I believe that this racetrack would be able to provide the racing that NASCAR is looking for. So I really hope that NASCAR does make the decision to go ahead and return to this racetrack in the near future. It provided some amazing racing overall, and again, I love the Chicagoland Speedway. It's a fantastic racetrack, a great facility. They've got to do some upgrades, but they've got Julie Geist really working with Chicagoland Speedway, and she's a really good president in my opinion. I think that this track should return because it's a fantastic racetrack, and it would be a year-end candidate for having the best racing in NASCAR. The second track that, in my opinion, should return to NASCAR is Rockingham Speedway. Now, NASCAR has not been to Rockingham Speedway in a very, very long time. The last time they went there was, I believe, back in 2013 when Kyle Larson held off a hard-charging Joe Logano in the Craftsman Truck Series to pick up his first Truck Series win. But the Cup Series has not raced there in 20 years. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of talk and conversations in the last couple of years of Rockingham coming back, and even I predicted about a year or two ago that this track was going to host the All-Star Day. Unfortunately, that was sadly not the case, but there's still a lot of talk, and this track is trying to promote its way back onto the NASCAR schedule. Now, Rockingham Speedway did receive a grant recently, I think, for about $10 million. I think they're one of the three tracks, them along with North Wilkesboro and Charlotte in the North Carolina area, that got a ton of money, and they've been putting that money to a good use. They've repaved the racetrack, and they've got safer barriers around the racetrack as well. I believe that the next-gen car would race really solidly and really well. You have multiple grooves. The Truck Series did a really great job here, and I think the racing itself would be phenomenal and outstanding. Now, they are an independently owned track, so that definitely would hurt, and they probably would have to have help from SMI or ISC to come back on the schedule to have a really good shot to getting back on the schedule. But I believe that with the resources that they could have if ISC or SMI came into play, I think that this track will be able to provide what they're looking for when it comes to the racing product. So I really hope NASCAR does decide to come back to Rockingham Speedway. I know they've been trying to return to the NASCAR schedule. I really hope NASCAR does budge and goes ahead and brings Rockingham Speedway back onto the NASCAR schedule, because I think Rockingham, like I've already said and mentioned, will be able to provide the racing that they are looking for. Hopefully this track does make a return in the not-so-distant future, maybe in 2025. Who knows, though? I hope it does come back, though, in the not-so-distant future. The third track that I would love to see return to the NASCAR schedule is the Nashville Fairgrounds. Now, the Nashville Fairgrounds has not been on the NASCAR schedule for the Cup Series in 40 years, all the way back, I believe, in 1984 or 1985. And the NASCAR Xfinity Series or Truck Series has not raced there since 2000. Now, NASCAR has been pushing really, really hardly to get the Nashville Fairgrounds back on the schedule for the last couple of years. They've been really having a big push. They've been having local racing over there, and there's been a lot of people who have been pushing back against it. Now, obviously, NASCAR has been getting into the Nashville area and they're racing at the Nashville Super Speedway, but it's about an hour outside the city. It wanted to be inside the area, which one thing about the Nashville Fairgrounds, it's inside the city, which I think that's the big goal for NASCAR, is to bring NASCAR to the city. And Nashville, like I said, is one of the fastest growing markets currently in the United States. And I believe that it would provide some solid racing. Obviously, the next-gen car does need to have a lot of work done for the short track product and the short track package, but I believe that the Nashville Fairgrounds would be able to provide that. And again, they have a 30-year plan they're working toward. Again, it still has to be approved. The earliest that it could come back is like 2026 or maybe even 2027. So we're probably a few years down the road from this track making a return if it was to return. But I believe that this is one of those racetracks that 100% for sure should be restored and brought back on the schedule. It provide a lot of money. They would do a lot of great things. Bristol's been involved in a big way, and they've been doing a lot of great things over there at Bristol as well. So I think that this track should 100% come back to the schedule because I think it provides some pretty solid and great racing in general, and the fans really want it back, in my honest opinion. The fourth track that should return to the NASCAR schedule is Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, also known as Montreal. Now, NASCAR did come very close to adding Circuit Gilles Villeneuve to the Cup Series schedule for 2024, but unfortunately that fell through. I think a big reason for that is because the Formula One race got moved a little bit earlier in the year, and that was a big reason why they unfortunately pushed it back. Now, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve actually used to host NASCAR dates from 2007 all the way up to the end of 2012, and then unfortunately it went over to Mid-Ohio starting in 2013. Now, in my honest opinion, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve always provided some amazing and great racing. I've watched every single race from 2007 to 2012 at the facility and the racetrack, and the racing never disappointed. You had amazing side-by-side racing throughout. You had comers and goers, and just had fantastic finishes. I go back to the 2009 finish between Marcus Ambrose and Carl Edwards. I go back to the really crazy stuff that happened in 2011, 2012 when Justin Allgaier stole the victory, the 2007 chaos between Robbie Gordon and Kevin Harvick and other drivers on that one restart. This track never disappointed. And I think that the next-gen car would excel exponentially. And another big reason why I want to see this track return is so that NASCAR can explore the international scene. NASCAR has been toying with going international over the course of the last few years, and they are talking about going into expanding in the international market. And Montreal would, I think, absolutely welcome it being back on the schedule because NASCAR has now had an international date in, I think, about 4 or 5 years. So I think if NASCAR wants to continue doing that international presence that they're looking at, I think Montreal will be able to provide that. So I really hope they do go ahead and return the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in the not so distant future because I think the racing would be exceptional and really, really good as well. The fifth track that, in my opinion, should return to the NASCAR schedule is Autodromo Hernando Rodriguez, also known as Mexico City. Now, NASCAR actually used to race in Mexico City from 2005 to 2008. The first race was won, I believe, by Martin Truex Jr. in 2005. Then in 2006, Denny Hamlin picked up his first top-tier win at that racetrack. Then 2007, Juan Pablo Montoya won the event after taking out Scott Pruitt. And then in 2008, Kyle Busch won the last event. Now, NASCAR has been exploring options of going back to Mexico City, and I would love for them to go back there. Formula One has currently raced there for a very, very long time, and while the racing isn't absolutely amazing for there, I think the NASCAR Cup, Xfinity Series, and Truck Series would be able to provide some really fun and great racing. And on top of that as well, you would be getting into exploring into that international market that NASCAR has been toying with for the last couple of years. So I really hope that NASCAR does go ahead and make the decision to return to that international market in Mexico City. There are a lot, especially you think about Daniel Suarez, who is from Mexico City and from that area. That would be a big way to bring some of those fans out who really support Daniel Suarez, the Daniels Amigos. And I think that international market will work really, really well as well. So I really hope that NASCAR does decide to go back to this racetrack. It provided some really good racing overall, and I think it would be a fun racetrack to go to for sure. We'll see if NASCAR does decide and go ahead to return to Mexico City in the not-so-distant future. The sixth track that, in my opinion, should return to the NASCAR schedule is Alor Speedway. Now, NASCAR raced at Alor Speedway from 2013 up until 2019, but has not raced there since. Now, obviously, they were supposed to race there in 2020 or 2021, but of course, they lost their date in 2021 because NASCAR decided to bring the spring Bristol date and turn it into Bristol Dirt. And Tony Stewart then made the decision to go ahead and no longer host a date at Alor Speedway because of that, as he was really frustrated and upset with NASCAR. Now, in my honest opinion, the first few years at Alor Speedway, it provided some really great racing from 2013 to about 2016, but the last couple years while the racing was solid, it wasn't absolutely amazing. racing. But I think the Cup Series, the Xfinity Series, and Truck Series, especially if they went back there and they got the dirt specs correctly, I think that they would go there. And another big reason why I want to see Alor back on the NASCAR schedule is because of the diversity on the schedule. You've got road course races, you got street course races, you've got ovals, you got mile and a half, you got 2-mile racetracks. You'd be able to provide more diversity on the schedule, and I think there absolutely should be a dirt race on the NASCAR schedule. And like I said, I think the racing would be a lot better this time around. The Cup Series has a few years of experience now there. They've been back for the last couple of years. Obviously, they're not going to have a dirt race because Brooks Dirt is no longer a thing. I think there should be a dirt race on the NASCAR schedule, and I think Alor 100% would be able to provide that dirt race that NASCAR is looking for. So I really hope NASCAR does go ahead and bring Alor back to the schedule because I think the racing would be very awesome. We also saw Bubba Wallace get a dirt win as well there a few years ago. I would love to see Alor, though, come back on the NASCAR schedule as well. The 7th track that, in my opinion, should return to the NASCAR schedule is Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, also known as Mosport. NASCAR started going there in 2013 with the Craftsman Truck Series, but has not been there since 2019. And in my opinion, outside of the 2019 race where Brett Moffitt dominated, I think every race there from about 2013 up until 2018 was extremely exciting. You had a very good opening race with Chase Elliott and then, of course, Ty Dillon, a really great battle there. Then in 2014, you had the photo finish between Ryan Blaney and Herman Quiroga. 2015 was a little less exciting because Eric Jones won and Alex Tagliani unfortunately ran out of gas and fuel on the last lap. Then in 2016, you had the amazing finish between John Henry Mitchell and Cole Custer, where we saw John Henry Mitchell get into a tussle with Cole Custer. Then in 2017, you had a pretty solid race in my opinion. And then 2018, of course, you had a phenomenal, crazy finish between Todd Gillen and Noah Gragson. And then basically Justin Haley came in and stole the victory. Again, I talk about the Canadian market, though. That is a market that has been a little on top as of recently, and I think we would see a very exciting and fun race overall at Canadian Tire if the Cup Series or the Xfinity Series ended up going there. So I really hope NASCAR does return to Canadian Tire because even the Canadian Series the NASCAR Canada Series has provided some really great racing there for many, many years, and I think NASCAR would put on a phenomenal and great show if they were able to go back there. So I really hope NASCAR does go ahead and return to Canadian Tire in the not-so-distant future because I think the racing will be phenomenal and absolutely incredible, in my honest opinion. The 8th track that, in my opinion, should return to NASCAR is Road America. NASCAR had hosted races at Road America from 2010 to 2023, but unfortunately, due to the Olympic break, they will not be hosting dates in 2024. That is unfortunate because, in my opinion, Road America is one of the best road courses in NASCAR. We have one of the best Xfinity Series finishes in the history at Road America very, very recently, where we saw a lot of chaos, a lot of oil on the racetrack, and in general, every single NASCAR Xfinity Series race, really for many years, have been extremely exciting and incredible. And a big reason why they need to go back to Road America, in my opinion, especially in the Xfinity Series and also the Cup Series as well, is because NASCAR have been there for a very, very long time. Now, I think that this is the most likely track that could return in 2025 because, unfortunately, one of the big reasons they're not going there this year is, like I said, because of the Olympic break. But I believe that this track 100% should stay on the NASCAR schedule for many years to come. The Xfinity Series has an amazing road course package that stays in that Wisconsin market, especially the Midwest market. There's not a lot of Midwest tracks on the NASCAR schedule currently, and losing Wisconsin and a couple other tracks is really disappointing and really, really unfortunate. I really hope Road America, like I said, does make a comeback on the schedule in 2025. You had great racing in 2011, great racing in 2010, 2012 had really solid racing, and in general, if we were to lose this track off the schedule and for a long time, it would be extremely disappointing. So I really hope NASCAR does come to their senses, which I think there's a good chance they will come back in 2025. But again, I really hope they come to their senses and return to Road America in 2025. The 9th track that, in my opinion, should return to the NASCAR schedule is the Daytona Road Course. Now, NASCAR does race at Daytona International Speedway, but they only run there on the oval track. Now, NASCAR, for a few years in 2020 and 2021, they actually experimented because of schedule realignment with the COVID-19 pandemic. They had to basically do a lot of changing up on the schedule, and they went to the Daytona Road Course for a couple years. And honestly, the 2 years they ran at the Daytona Road Course during the spring and the summer were actually really phenomenal races. I thought the 2021 edition was really, really solid and outstanding. In the 2020 race, you saw a really solid finish between Chase Elliott and Denny Hamlin. Now, unfortunately, they did not go back in 2022, and it's really, really unfortunate. And for me, if I was to add Daytona back on the schedule for the road course, I'd put it in the Daytona Speed Weeks around there as the second race of the season, because it's in that Daytona market, and a lot of people are going to tune in. And I think about the second race back, I think that race actually had more people tune into that event than the Daytona 500 in 2021. I think like 4.5 or 4.6 million people tuned into that event because it was in Daytona. It's in that Daytona market, and I would put that as second race of the year because the weather's also generally going to be nice as well. And you would have the opportunity and chance to have rain tires used. And if you have to move the Daytona 500 a little bit farther back in the week with the weather, how unpredictable it is, you can stay in Daytona and have the Daytona road course and be on the road course configuration. So in my honest opinion, Daytona needs to bring the road course back. It brought some really exciting racing. I enjoy both races there. Hopefully NASCAR does go ahead and return to the Daytona road course in the not so distant future. And the 10th and final track that, in my opinion, should return to the NASCAR schedule is Pikes Peak International Raceway. Now, NASCAR used to race at Pikes Peak International Raceway, I think from like the mid to early 1990s up until the end of 2005. A big reason why we should return to Pikes Peak is because of the Colorado market. NASCAR has been wanting to target that Denver market for a very, very long time, and Pikes Peak is a perfect track to go to. Now, the racing was not absolutely outstanding every year. There's no doubt about that, but there were some very solid races. The last time, like I said, they ran there was in 2005, and I believe that going into that Colorado and Denver market is something big for NASCAR because NASCAR has kind of talked about, like I said, going in that Denver market. And I think Pikes Peak would 100% be able to go into that untapped market. I think the racing would be pretty good too. I think the track's 1 mile, if I'm not mistaken. So you would be able to have some solid racing, multi-group racing especially. And you get double wide, you can get side by side. And you might also be able to have some really exciting fuel mileage finishes as well. One thing about Pikes Peak is it always provided some really great, basically fuel mileage races. And I think you'd be able to provide that to a lot of fans. And I think you'd have a lot of very happy and really good fans that would be able to enjoy that kind of racing as well. You might also get some strategy racing, and I think it'd be a really good track for NASCAR to go to in general. So I really hope NASCAR does make the decision to go ahead and return to Pikes Peak because I think the racing would be pretty good overall, in my honest opinion. So those are 10 tracks, in my opinion, that should return to NASCAR. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on, so if I win a video, it does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support on Patreon as well. Links description below that, and comment your thoughts below on today's video. What racetracks, in your opinion, should return to NASCAR? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Tomorrow on the channel, there'll probably be a NASCAR news video catching up news over the course of the last couple days. There might be a second video dropping on the channel if any major news breaks. Thursday, there'll probably be something special dropping on the channel. Maybe the Xfinity Series and Truck Series lineups might come out this week. I'm not entirely sure yet. Nonetheless, I got a lot of great content dropping that I cannot wait for you guys to check out. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.